Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's technical mathematics lesson. My name is Moses Maudu. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. So today we're going to be looking at paper 1 topics as we're writing paper 1 tomorrow. The topics that we're going to be looking at in paper 1 are the following. I'm going to look at all those topics. So the algebra, we're going to look at the algebra, which is going to be plus minus 50 marks in an exam, the paper. Then we have our functions and graphs, which contributes plus minus 35 marks in the paper. The differential, the finance contribute plus minus 15, and differential calculus and integration will contribute plus minus 50. And if we calculate all these marks, we'll get 150 marks. Now, I'm going to try and do this. Out of the 50 marks, if we can get above 30 out of this, just want to try the minimum marks that we can get must be about 30. So when we're practicing, I must just say, my minimum mark is 30, the maximum is 50. If I can look at the functions and I say my minimum mark for that should be 20, then the minimum mark for the finance should be at least 10 marks. And the minimum mark for differential calculus and integration, it is 30 marks. So if I calculate that 30 and 30 and the 30, I'm already at 90 out of 150. So the 90 out of 150, at least, that is in the first hour of your exam. So in the first hour of your exam, if you can be able to get up to 90 marks out of 150, then in the second hour of your exam, then you can be able to do the rest of the questions so that you can be able to get, because the aim here is to get 150 out of 150, and I know we can do that. But in the first hour, try to get questions that we can quickly do in the algebra and say, if I can get 30 in the first hour, and I can get 20 in the functions, 10 in the finance, and 30 in differential calculus, then you can come back in the second hour and try to do these other questions that you have skipped. Right. The information sheet will be there in your answer book. So the formula, very important formula. Please, this time we must not make mistakes in terms of copying the formula. We must copy it correctly so that we substitute correctly. Please, there's a plus minus in between that, so we must be wary of that. We must copy it correctly from the formula sheet. This is the formula for the quadratic formula, which is going to be used when you are solving quadratic equations. Only used in quadratic equations, not in any other equation. We have the x of symmetry formula. There is the formula where we're going to get the x value of the turning point. So if I've got a turning point, that x value, the formula for that will be this one. And the formula for the y-intercept of the turning point will be that, so that you have a coordinate of the turning point here. Right. So in other words, this is the x value of the turning point, which is also an x of symmetry. This is from that formula. If you can check this, minus b over 2a, that's minus b all over 2a. Can you see that formula? So that formula comes from here. So it's also going to be used when we are working with the quadratics. So when we're working with the quadratic equations, these are the formula that we can use. This one with respect to function, when you're given a parabola, then I'm able to do those two. Use those two formula. The exponents and the logs, you can see with the exponents, a to the power of x equals to b. Then I can change this one from this to that. So I'm changing from exponential to log. So if I change it from exponential to log, I have something like that. So it will be the log of a number to the given base equals to the exponent, okay, which is x. So A must always be greater than 0. So in other words, this A can never be negative. So you must know this when you're doing the exponents and logs, that if I'm given something like this, the A can never be negative. A can never be equals to 1 because it will never be an exponential, and B must also be greater than 0. So B must be greater than 0. Nothing must be negative in this one. Okay, so we know now all the formula. I'm doing this so that when you get this formula sheet, you know exactly what this is for. That formula is. Right, for this one, solve for x by factorization and formula. So we'll see when they say by factorization, in this one, it's already factorized. So please, this is 2 marks, my boys and girls. In 2 marks, you cannot come here and multiply out that one in. You cannot do. So in other words, that part here, it's equals to 0 here. So that whole thing equals to 0. So just write down the factors. So in other words, if I've got something, factor there, multiply by this factor, let me just say b, it's equals to 0. So it's either a will be equals to 0 or b will be equals to 0, you see. So the a will be equals to 0 or a will be equals to negative b, so negative b in this case. So I'm doing this so that then you can see what I'm doing on this question. So it's either half of x equals to 0 or 2x minus 1 equals to 0. I don't need to write that step. I can immediately write the answers, which are x equals to 0 or x equals to 1 over 2. Transpose the minus 1 to this side, divide both sides by 2. By now, I think we all know that. So that was supposed to be a equals to b here. Okay, so ignore that part here. So that will be a equals to b. So in other words, what I've done is I've taken this one to be equals to 0 and that whole thing there to be equals to 0. Because a times b equals to 0, let me write it here, a times b equals to 0. It's either a is 0 or b is 0. Okay. All right, so now these are our 2 answers and the marks will be allocated there and there. So you'll only have 2 marks. So the marks are allocated at the final answer. So if you multiply in and then from there you're still going to factorize and then you're going to give us the answers, you're wasting time. 2 marks. Remember your paper is out of 150, it's 3 hours. So each and every mark there is 1.2 mark per minute. Now, let's look at this one. Now here it says round off to 2 decimal places. This type of questions everyone must get. This 4 or 5 marks everyone. Because these are very, very, very easy questions. First of all, you must know that this must be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. In this case, it is not in that form. So what should I do? Multiply out the brackets. You see, I don't have a 0 there. If I have a 0, I'll just say minus x equals to 0 and this equals to 0. So there's no 0. So I must first multiply out and transpose. So I'll have minus 6x plus x squared, it equals to 4. So I want to arrange it nicely there in this form. Okay. So I'll have, first I start with an x squared. I take it with a sign. So that will be minus 6x. The 4 transpose will be minus 4 equals to 0. And I can see, once they say correct to 2 decimal places, it means that it cannot be factorized. So which means that I must go directly to the formula, x equals to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. The first thing that you need to do here is to write down what the value of a and the value of b is. The value of a, the value of b, and the value of c. So the value of a here is 1. See, we have a 1. The value of b, we take it with a sign. The value of c, we also take it with a sign. So then I'm going to substitute in the formula. Remember the formula. It's there in the formula sheet. So I'm going to say negative into negative 6 plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4a C. Then from there, I close the bracket. Then you can see that my square root is covering everything there. We cannot leave our square root somewhere here. It must cover the whole thing there. So we've got this, and then you go straight to your calculator and press it as it is. Remember, the plus minus will not be there on the calculator. Then you must first press the plus one, the plus, and then from there you move back. After getting the answer, you move back and press the negative. Change the negative, the positive to a negative. Then you don't have to multiply bits and pieces of this. You have to do it once. Because sometimes you come here and then from there you want to know what is inside the bracket, and then you see minus 6x squared, minus 4, and then you write down the answer, and then you're making that sum very long. In this case, what do? I'll show you how we're going to mark that. In this case, just go to the calculator and press that. And the answer that we're going to get there will be negative 0.61, or the other answer, x will be equals to 6.61. Right, those are the two answers that you get. So look at how we mark it. We're going to mark, the first mark will go for that, see, for writing it in this form. Already you've got 1 out of 4 if you know how to write it. The second mark will be for the substitution into the correct formula. And you must listen to me carefully. I said substitution into the correct formula. If the formula is wrong, everything is going to be wrong. Correct formula. So once you substitute the correct formula, you get a mark. 1 mark for the first answer, 1 mark for the second answer, then you get your 4 marks. So you see, this is the question that every one of you, everyone must get, because the 4 marks, it's a giveaway. So you must know how to write that first in this form, then substitute correct formula, use a calculator, get your full 4 marks. That's an easy. This 6 marks, it's a giveaway. Each and every question paper, if you've worked on through question papers, you'll realize that the 2 marks, the 6 marks, the first 6 marks are giveaway marks. So we really need to get these marks. Right, the next one, and it's a bit of a challenge, but now in this case, I'm going to show you the easy way to do it. 2 minus x, x plus 5. Now, the factors are already given. Sometimes the factors are not given. You have to get the factors, and then from there, you can use the quadratic formula to get to the factors. The biggest thing here is to get the correct critical values. So I'll have, now I've got a challenge here. This one is x plus 5, but this one is 2 minus x. But I know in grade 10, we've done this. If I've got a minus b, and I want to write this one here, I want to start with the b positive. I can put a negative outside, take out negative as a common factor, then I'm going to have b minus a. Okay, I want to start with the b, so I can do that. This is grade 10. So let's try and do this one now. I've got 2 minus x. I want to write this x. I want to write x first. So what do? I put a negative, and then I'm going to x minus 2. See, now I have that. I like it when it is like this. I don't like it when I have a 2 minus x and the other factor it's x minus plus 5. Now I want this, I want to start with an x. So that's the easy way to do it. And we have done this work in grade 10. Now, in this case, what do? I can divide by -1, divide everything by -1. So if I divide by -1, I'm going to get x minus 2, x plus 5. But once I divide this sign by a negative, it changes, it becomes less than. Okay, so now I have the 2 values for x. So what is my next step? My next step is now to write these critical values. All right? The critical values that I'm going to have here are going to be 2 and -5. These are not the values of x. These are not the answers. These are the critical values. These are my limits. So 2 and -5. So you can see how I got this. So it will be x minus 2 equals to 0. x plus 5 equals 0, then I solve for x. But these are not my answers. Now we need to get to our answer. The symbol that we're going to use now is the less than symbol. So it's less than. So I'm going to show you this. If it is less than, this is how you're going to write your solution. So your solution, if it's less than, you put x in the middle, you draw a number line, for instance, number line, x in the middle, this number that is here must come there, this number must come there, you put less and less. I've already given you the answer. If I put my number line here, 2 will be somewhere there, -5 will be somewhere there. So in between these two numbers, remember I'm working with a 2 and a -5, ignore the 0. So I'll have an x in the middle, I'll put 2 on my right, I'll put -5 on my left, and then I put less and less. That's all that I'm going to do. This is how I can get this solution. So if it is less than, you must know x must be in between the two extremes, which is 5 and -2. So if it is greater than, if that one was greater than, remember we're working with this one because we have already divided by x. If it was less than, if it was greater than, my solution will be or in the middle. So I put or in the middle. So if I've got a 2 this side and a -5 this side, so what will I have? I'll have x, or x is greater than 2 going to the right, and this side will be x is less than -4 going to the left. So this is when I have a greater than. So please practice this. We've got a greater than, then I know or in the middle, and those numbers will be going away. So it will be both values going away. The number on the right will be greater, the number on the left will be less than. That's all that you do, and this will be your solution. In this case, this is our solution, and that's the 2 marks will be just for the critical values and also for the two values for the answer. Okay, in this case. But you'll get more marks on this question. I think the examiner here for 2 marks, there's something that we have worked out here. We've changed the sign, we've done the critical values, we have given you the two extremes, and also the notation is correct. So I think this question deserves a bit more. But anyway, let's move on. Right. So you've seen that in those questions there we had factorization, solving by factors, solving by using a formula, and the next one is the inequality. We had the inequalities. The next one is the simultaneous equation, which also for me I don't think it is big. It is a problem. It is quite easy. You just need to know how to multiply the bracket. That's all. In this one, they've made life easy. What did they do here? They said, okay, now I'm having y plus x minus 10 is equals to 0. And this other equation, x squared minus xy plus y squared equals to 28. The first mark, they say, express this in the form of y equals to mx plus c. In other words, make y the subject of the formula. That's what they say. So meaning that if I make y the subject of the formula, I must transpose the plus x that side, it becomes minus x. I must transpose the minus 10 that side, it becomes plus 10. That's all. That's my 1 mark. Right. Hence or otherwise. You see, once they say hence, they're saying use what you got there to solve for this x and y. So they've made life easy for me. They're just saying, where you see y in this equation, put minus x plus 10. Because the y has now been replaced by minus x plus 10. So I'm going to go and write x squared minus x into minus x plus 10. Then plus into minus x plus 10. In this case, it's squared. Let me bring over the 28 this side. I don't like 28 to be on the other side. Now from there, I must clean up. Cleaning up means I must multiply out the brackets. So I'm going to have x squared. Negative is plus x squared. Negative and positive, it's negative 10x. Then plus, whatever I'm going to multiply here, I'm going to double it. So I'm going to say minus x plus 10 square root. Okay, so I'm going to have, inside the bracket, I'm going to have x squared minus 20x, I think, plus 100 minus 28 equals to 0. So you can see now, I can now multiply out that bracket. I'm going to have 2x squared. I'm just going to clean up everything so that then we have the correct equation. And then I'm going to have minus 10x plus x squared minus 20x plus 100 minus 28. Right. Now, if I want to clean up this, I see is going to give me 3x squared. This is going to give me minus 30x. And then I'm going to have 72 on this one. So I can just write that one as 3x squared minus 30x plus 72 equals to 0. Then I can divide throughout by 3. I'll get minus 10x and then plus 24 equals to 0. Then I can factorize this to get the values of x. This can be factorized. If you don't know how to factorize, you are there. You start use the quadratic formula. But this, I think, can be factorized to 6 and 4, both negative. So therefore, my x values are going to be 6 or 4. These are my two x values. But am I done? No. The question was solved for x and y. So what should I do now? I'll just put it here. My y values now are going to be, so first let's substitute by x on this one now. So I'm going to have minus 6 plus 10, that will give me a 4. Or my other y value will be minus 4 plus 10, and that will give me a 6. So these are all the values. The 6 marks, it's not very difficult. As long as we understand the process, there's only one thing that you need to know, is to make y or x the subject of the formula in one of the equations. The next step is to substitute whatever you got there into the other equation. And from there, you clean up. Clean up by multiplying. You must know how to multiply binomials. You must know how to multiply brackets with a negative. That's all that you need. Once you go to the quadratic equation, that's it. You can use it. I mean, to the quadratic equation, yes, you can use a formula, and then from there you get the two values for x. Then you substitute them into the third equation. You get the values of y. That is the process. If you understand this process, you can do any question that deals with simultaneous. That needs you to do simultaneous equations. Okay. Now the next activity. Remember, this is still algebra. It's still part of the algebra. The next activity is this subject of the formula. The formula used to determine the pressure. So the P will be for the pressure of the fluid in a hydraulic system as shown in the diagram below. It's given by that. Force, F is the force. A is the area in square centimeters. So they say make A the subject of the formula, meaning that A must be on its own. Already I know that P is over 1. So I cross multiply this. I'm going to get PA equals to F times 1. If I need A on its own, I divide both sides by P, and then A will be on its own. F over P is what they're looking for. Okay. All right. Now, the next question will say hence. So already I know that A equals to F over P. Now, what is given? They say calculate A if P given like that, and the F is also given in that form, and express, you must look at it, express that in scientific notation. Right, and it's 3 marks. So meaning that my first mark will go for the substitution. So I'm going to say 25 times 10 to the power 3. I don't have to put the units. P is 25, 984, 480,5. I don't need to put units there. Then from there, I use my calculator. I use my calculator, it's going to give me 0,000962. Okay. Now, they want me to write this in scientific form. Scientific form means, so I need to go to the first digit there. So it's 0 there. So I can move my comma 1, 2, 3, 4. When my first contact with that number there, then there's a comma. So there must be 1 digit there. So I'm going to have 9,62. How many times did I move? 4 times. So it's 10 to the power 4. I've moved to 10 to the power -4. So I've moved 4 units to my right. If I move 4 units to my right, 4 steps to my right, then it becomes negative. If I move 4 units to my left, then it becomes a positive. So that is the final answer that I'm going to get. Remember, it's area, so it will be square meters because we're given that it's square meters. Okay. All right, and these are some of the questions. I mean, if you feel that you just need some time to think about it, you can go to the next question, and then from there you come back. You still do it. It's quite straightforward and easy. Okay. Still in question 1. So question 1 has got the following. You must know it's factorization. Solving by factorization, quadratic formula, binary numbers, simultaneous equation, inequalities. So if you can practice those, question 1, you can get full marks. There's nothing difficult here. So with the binary numbers, you can use a calculator, and hope and trust the teachers have shown you how to use the calculator by using the binary when you're doing the binary numbers. It's quite easy with the calculator. Changing from binary to decimal, the easiest way to do. So you change the binary number to a decimal. Then from there, you can add or subtract them. And once you have done with that, then you can be able to take it back to binary. So in this case here, I'm just going to subtract the 2. So here, if I take that number there, 1,0,0,111 base 2. Please do not forget base 2 there. It's very important. We are subtracting 1,0,0,11 base 2. So if I do that and I take a calculator and take it to binary numbers, then from there I can just put all those numbers in and subtract them, and the answer that you're going to get, please try it. So it's 1,1,0,1,0,0 base 2. If you cannot do that, then you can use a table. Remember the table that you have here, the table that taught and change from binary to that. You remember the table. I hope you all remember the table that we have done. So it's 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 3, 2 to the power 4, 2 to the power 5, and 2 to the power 6. You can do that. Okay. All right. Now, hence they say convert the answer to a decimal form. So obviously, if I take my answer 1,1,0,1,0,0 base 2, and I want to change it to a decimal form. So I know here there's nothing there, there's nothing. So I've got 2 to the power 2. Then I have, remember when I said nothing, there's a 0 there, there's a 0 there, there's a 1 here. So that one I'm dealt with it. Then we move on to the next one, then that one is done, then the 2 to the power 3 is a 0, then so it means that we don't have anything. Then we say 2 to the power 4, Then from there, 2 to the power 4 and 2 to the power 5, because we've got a 1 and a 1 here. So 2 to the power 5. So if I can quickly add this, then I get 52. So the decimal for this will be 52. You can do it by using a calculator. It's quite easy with a calculator. You just press 110, 100. Then from there you say shift and then you go to decimal. Then you get your 52. Or you can do it manually if you still understand the manual part of it. But the calculator gives you the answer straight away. Okay, so that is your end of question 1. So you can see in question 1, we can be able to grab marks there. There are a lot of marks that we can get in question 1. Right, I think we can get total in question 1 as we have done that. Now, question 2 is the nature of roots. This is quite a bit of a challenge to some of the learners, I know. But once you know the rules of this, you are better off. The descriptors here, delta equals to 0. It means that the roots are equal. And obviously, they must be real and rational. So if I get my delta, what is this delta that we're talking about? It's nothing else but b squared minus 4ac. Where have you seen that? In the formula, in the quadratic formula. That's what is inside the square root. So once what is inside the square root is 0, we know that we're going to have 2 answers that are the same. But once the delta is greater than 0, and it's a perfect square, we all know what a perfect square is by now. It's perfect square. Then the roots are going to be rational. And they will be unequal. So that is what is inside the square root. If it's 4, 9, 1, therefore the roots will be rational. Okay, because we're going to have the roots that are real numbers and rational also. So if delta is greater than 0, but it is not a perfect square, right? What type of roots am I going to have? Irrational roots. So I'm going to have roots like square root of 5, square root of 3, numbers like that. So, and the roots are also going to be unequal. Right. So if you know this notes, you are done with that question. So delta is less than 0. Therefore, we say we have non-real roots or complex roots. Right? Non-real roots, we can say they're non-real, but as technical math learners, we know, oh, no, we can get the square root of a negative number, but it's a complex number, isn't it? So we can just say they are complex numbers. So look at the first one. It says, given this, we must check for which values of k will that has equal roots. So what do we know about equal roots? It means what is inside the square root must be equals to 0 for equal roots. Only that if what is inside the square root is equals to 0, therefore the roots are going to be equal. So we're going to say minus, then we solve for k. There's just missing a question here. For which values or value of k will we have equal roots? So in this case, it's minus 1. So we solve for k. K will be 1 over 3. So if k is 1 over 3, that value of k is 1 over 3, then we're going to have a 0 inside the square root. So the roots are going to be equal. Once you understand where to get the b squared minus 4ac, you're done. So the b squared minus 4ac is inside the square from the formula. Where will the roots be? Undefined. Undefined, what do you know about undefined? The undefined means division by 0. If I divide by 0, I'll get something that is undefined. So which means I have a denominator here which is k minus 4. So which means that k minus 4 is equals to 0 and k is equals to 4. So in other words, if k is equals to 4, the roots will not be defined. The whole thing will not be defined. Because we're going to have 4 minus 4, which is how much? 0, and division by 0 is not allowed. So something that is not allowed, it is undefined. You cannot define that. So they're asking you for values of k for which it will be undefined. So therefore k must be equals to 4 for this thing to be undefined. Please don't write k is not equals to 4. They're asking you the value of k that will make the whole thing to be undefined. So the k should be equals to 4. For equal roots, the k must be 1 over 3. That's what they're asking. Okay. Right. Complete the following statements given the equation. There's the equation that has been given. It's a quadratic equation. Complete the following. If the roots are non-real, then the value of the discriminant is nothing else but delta. All right? Right. So non-real. What do we know about non-real? The discriminant is less than 0. We know the symbol for less than, we just put less than 0 there. Okay, that's what they're asking. So they say determine the value of p for which the roots will be non-real. But now they're following up and say, they've given you a hint there that your delta must be less than 0. So let's substitute. The value of b is 3. The value of a is 4. The value of c is p. So what are we doing? We are solving for p. So we're going to have 9 minus 16p is less than 0. So then I will have minus 16p is less than minus 9. Divide both sides by negative 16. Then p will be greater than. Can you see? So once I divide by negative, then I change the sign. 9 over 16. So we're saying any value that is greater than 9 over 16 will give this thing non-real roots. Anything that is more than 9 over 16 will give us, that is greater than 9 over 16, will give us non-real roots. Right. If they said equal, I will have put equal sign there. If they said real and rational, I will have put greater than or equals to. Okay. Now, question 2 is basically the nature of the roots. About 10 marks or so. So we really need to at least try to do those type of questions. If you understand these rules, you will be able to apply the nature of the roots there into those questions. Now let's see question 3. So in question 3, what we have is exponents. Easy one. I know most of you, once you see a 0 there and it's an exponent, then you immediately want to write 1. But in this case, what is that 0 for? It is for 3x. It is not for 7. So which means that it will be 7 into 1, and then the answer there will be 7. Okay. So please, once you see a 0, check where the 0, which term is the 0 affecting. Square root of 18 here. Simplify without using a calculator. Right. Now, look at this. 8. 8, it's made of one number which is a perfect square and the other number which is a prime number. Right? So which means that I can do this like that. And the square root of 4 is going to be 2. Square root of 2. So no calculator. You see, I didn't use a calculator. So here in this case, I'm going to have 2 root 2. 242. I know most of you do use a calculator. You can still use it, or you can use your, you know, that the ladder method. 242, 2 into that, and then 2 into this, and from there until you get to that. But in this case, I can see this one is going to be 121 multiplied by 2, if I divide that by 2. So that will, the square root of 121 is 11, and that will be 11 square root of 2. Once you write decimals, you lose it. You won't get marks, you won't get even 1. So if you use a calculator, you must be very careful. If I put square root of 242 into my calculator, it gives me 11 root 2 factorized. But once you say decimal, then you get a decimal, then you're not getting any mark. Square root of 72, what will be the square root of 72? It will be 6 root 2. I know it's 36 multiplied by 2, so I'll have that. So in this case, here is 2 root 2. What is inside the bracket? I subtract the 2. Remember, it's 11 of them minus 6 of them. So I'll have that. So then the answer is going to be 20. Right? Because 5 times 2 is 10. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. 10 times 2 is 20. Okay. The log laws are also very, very, very important. If I add the logs, log A plus log B will be given as log A times B. Log A minus B, so minus log B will be the same as log A divided by B. So I'll do the same with this one. I can see the two logs are dividing, are subtracting. So I'll go and say log x plus 2 divided by x. So by this. So when I have a minus, I write 1 log and the 2 divides. Then equals to 1. If it's not written, it's base 10. Every time if it is not written, you write base 10. Right? So if I want to change it, remember changing it to log form, I'll put 10 to the power of that. So it will be 10 to the power of 1 equals to x plus 2 all over x. Right? I've changed it from exponential to log for me to be able to work out this sum. So I'll cross multiply x plus 2 is equals to 10x. And then I can bring this that side 9x is equals to negative 2. X will be 2 over 9. That will be the final answer. Okay, remember x can never be negative. So if I got a negative number there, I'll discard it. Okay. Right. So these are the log laws that you must know. I hope you know you have them. Again, on question 3, that's where we'll get, you see, in question 3, you get 3 things. You'll get logs, exponents, and complex numbers. That's what you get. Complex numbers, we have done them this year. We have done a lot of questions on complex numbers. Now, in this case, they say, write down the quadrant in the complex plane in which Z lies. Z is given as this. So if I check this, I know this is A, this is B. All right. So now I have, this is the imaginary. So it's imaginary. This is the real. So if real is positive 5, the imaginary is negative 5. So you can see that point there is in the 4th quadrant. So the quadrant that is there will be the 4th quadrant. All right. So they're asking you that. Why are they asking you? Because the next question you'll need to understand that I need an angle which is that side, which is in the 4th quadrant, which is going to be 360 minus the reference angle. That is the most important thing that you need to understand to make sure that you know which quadrant is this. Express this in the polar form. Now, polar form, what are the 3 things that you need? You need the value of r, you need the angle. I know in your schools, most of your teachers have gone through this using now when you're practicing, they showing you how to use a calculator to get the r and the theta. without any stress, just putting those two values in your calculator, and then you get the value of r and the value of theta. In this case, let's do it manually. The r value will be, so I'm going to say it is the square root of 5 squared minus into minus 5 squared. Right. Now I'm going to get my r value. I'm not going to waste time there. I think it's 5 root 2. That's your r. After getting the r value, you need to get the angle. So the tan of theta will be negative 5 over 5, sorry. It's equals to, that will be negative 1. So your theta, which is a reference theta, reference angle, it's going to be 45 degrees. Shift tan 1, don't put a negative, okay? The angle will now be 360 degrees minus 45, which gives us 315 degrees. Then, therefore, how do I write this in polar form? So it will be 5 root 2, so I'm going to write z, it's equals to 5 root 2 cis 315 degrees. Or I can write as z equals to 5 root 2, and then I write 315 with the sign of an angle. Or I can write it as, so these are the three ways on how you can write it. I can write 5 root 2 into cos of 315 degrees plus I sine of 315 degrees. Those are the three ways on how you can write it that are acceptable. So polar form in those three forms. Okay, rectangular form, this is the rectangular form. So from here, I can go to the rectangular form. Okay. Right. Simple question, 4 marks. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this one. This is quite straightforward. So if I multiply out the brackets first, I'll get 6i squared minus 15i plus 7 minus ni. Once I see I squared, I know it's negative 1. So I'll have negative 6, negative 15i plus 7 minus ni equals to m. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go directly to the answer. So I'm going to first do the real part and do the imaginary part. Okay, I'm going to divide this like that. So this m here is the real part equals to, the other real part is negative 6, the other real part is plus 7. Can you see there's an m equals to? So now on the imaginary, on this side I have a 0, I don't have any imaginary on this side, equals to, the imaginary on this side is negative 15, the imaginary on this side is negative n. So I've put the real parts together as they are on that equation, and I've put the imaginary parts together as they are. Then I know this side we don't have an imaginary, we have 0i. Now, simple, then I'm going to have m equals to 1, that's my correct answer. In this case, it's, if I bring over the minus n, that side it becomes n equals to negative 15, then I'm done. Okay, so there's nothing that, taking these ones that side and making it x and y or m and n and all that, you're wasting time. So you just leave them as they are, as long as you don't have a division, something that is dividing. So just leave it like that. Okay, so the 1 mark will be for that minus 6. Okay, and the other 1 mark will be for multiplying out this one. And the other marks will be for putting your answers together. Okay. All right. So you don't need the transposing and all that. No, you just need to do that. Now, question 4 is graphs. I've taken only this one question on graph. So what I'm doing is something that we can do quickly in one hour, 1.5 hours in the question paper. So I've just removed some of the question in this question paper so that then you can see that these ones that we're doing are just quite easy and straightforward. We can just quickly do them. Write down the coordinates of A and B. You're given that equation here. A and B, what are those? X-intercepts of the graph. So what do we do with the x-intercepts? Already this is given. It is already factorized for me. So I don't have a problem. It's already factorized. So why should I stress myself? So I'm going to say the A value, the A will be, if I solve that, x will be equals to -2. At B, if I solve this one, x will be equals to 4. I'm done. So those are the 2 marks. Okay, it's already factorized. So you cannot go and factorize it again if it's already factorized. Okay. Determine the coordinates of D. What is D? It is my turning point. Turning points. So how am I going to do my turning points? So first of all, remember, 4.1.2, which is a turning point. First of all, what am I going to do? I have this number here, it's -2. This number here is 4. This is the axis of symmetry. The x value is the axis of symmetry. It's either I can use x equals to -b/2a, which means I must multiply out this one and then get, I think that's going to be a lot of work. Why don't I get the midpoint of this line? What is the formula for the midpoint for the x? X1 plus x2 divided by 2. Remember, the axis of symmetry is the midpoint. So I'm going to have x1 is 4 minus 2 over 2. So my value of x is going to be 1. I'm done. Rather than multiplying this and make lots of mistakes, you see? So I can use if I've got these two x values, I don't have a problem. I can use the midpoint. How do I get the y value? I just substitute this one into that point. So I'll have minus into 1 minus 4 into 1 plus 2. Then my answer there is going to be, check this, so it's going to be negative into -3, and 1 plus 2 is 3, and then the answer is going to be a positive 9. The coordinates of D will be 1 and 9. Okay, right. Alternatively, I can multiply out that, but that will be a waste of time. In this one, they say, write the range of this graph. The range of that graph of f. The range of that graph, where is this point here, 1 and 9? So I look at the y value. So y should be less or equals to 9. Because 9 is also included in there. But we know that y must be an element of all real numbers. Okay, y is an element of real numbers. So it's very important that we also mention that. I know it's 1 mark. You will get a mark if you say y is less or equals to 9. But just as an extra to show that you understand that this y must also be an element of all of real numbers, not complex numbers, real numbers. The equations of the asymptote of G. Now here is G graph. The asymptote, this line is an asymptote. So the first value of the asymptote here will be x equals to 0. This is standard. It's standard. It's on the y-axis. It's standard, boys and girls. So you need to understand that. The other one will be this line here, and I know it passes through that point here, which is 9. So the other one will be y is equals to 9. And that is my asymptote. It's 2 marks. This one is standard. The asymptote of a hyperbola is standard. It's y equals to 9. Okay. The next question says, determine the numerical value of k. So remember, we have g of x. It's equals to k over x plus 9. Now we need the value of k. So how do I get the value of k? So first I'm going to substitute here. See this point here, the g graph passes through that point. What is this point? -2 and 0. So I'm going to substitute here. 0 equals to k over x is minus 2, and that is plus 9. Now I need the value of k, so I'm going to transpose the 9 minus 9, k over negative 2, then k will be equals to 18. That's the value of k. So why am I taking this point? Because this graph passes through that point. I cannot take that point, this one, or that one. It won't help me. Okay. So question 4, you find 5 graphs. The hyperbola, the parabola, straight line, circle, and the parabola. So all those graphs are set in question 4. Question 4 is all about graphs. Straight line and the hyperbola graph and the parabola graph are quite easy graph, and the second is also quite an easy graph. Okay, the exponential graphs too. Right. In finance, formula for compound, formula for simple interest, formula for depreciation, and the formula for effective rate. So you must read the question and understand it. Now, let's look at this question that we're going to have. A car's engine overheated at an increasing compound rate. Can you see? Already you have the word compound. So the formula will be exponential n. The rate is given, and they say the initial, which is P, it's 75 degrees Celsius. Determine the temperature at the end of 3 hours. So the n is given. This is P is given. This is the rate that is given. So, and this is the hint. So it means that I'm going to write A is equals to P into 1 plus I to the power of n. Already I've got a mark for that. Right? 1 out of 3 already are passed. 33%. So let's move on. Substitute. Your P is initial, so it's 75 degrees Celsius. Right? The R is given here. So to get the I, I must have 26 over 100. The number given is 3 hours, so I'll leave it 3. Okay. So then I just quickly use my calculator and get 150.03 degrees Celsius. So it means that after 3 hours, the temperature of that engine will be at 150.03 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that will be very hot. Right. Okay, in question 6, it's differential calculus. Another section where we need to get marks. The formula must be written correctly. Again, we have an issue where there's an learners put an equal sign in between here. It's wrong. The formula should be like that. The equal sign must be here. Right? So let's write the correct formula because you get marks for correct formula. Determine f prime x if I'm given this. Simple. F prime x will be equal to the limit when h approaches 0. So I'm not going to write down the formula as you have seen, but you must write down the formula. I'm just going to substitute. So it's 7 into x plus h and plus 5. The 5 doesn't have an x, so we cannot substitute that. I'm going to put this in bracket. Minus f at x is the same thing. And all divided by h. Simple as that. Then we are going to multiply out 7 over 2h, x plus 7 over 2h plus 5 minus now 7 over 2x. Negative positive is negative 5, all divided by h. We can see this and that will give me a 0. The plus 5 and the minus 5 will give me a 0. What is left? The limit of 7 over 2h all over h h approaches 0, that and that falls off. Therefore, my f prime x will only be 7/2. That's all. All right. So meaning that you will already have the answer here. That is always going to be your answer, but you must work it out. It's not just write answer only. Answer only will give you 1/5, and 1/5 is not a pass. Not a pass. So you are at 20%. So please make sure that you know how to substitute. The only challenge is substitution and also multiplying that negative. We forget to change the sign in the brackets. All right, the rules. The rules are also straightforward. We know if they say f prime x, we are differentiating x here. Do you see any x on the minus 8 pi? No. If I don't see any x on that, it means my derivative will be 0, because this is a constant. It doesn't have an x. Okay. If they said differentiate f pi here, so therefore the pi is there, so I must differentiate it, which my answer will be negative 8 pi squared. All right. Now, in this case here, this is not simplified. I cannot differentiate. And I've seen some of you differentiating this one, they differentiate that one, they differentiate this one. No, that's not correct. Which means that I must first split them. So before I differentiate, I must split them. So I must have x to the power 4 over x to the power 2. Then I must have 9x over x squared. The same way as I do when I do integration. Remember, we split them in integration also. So I'll have y is equals to, you see, I'm still writing y. X to the power of 2 plus 9x to the power minus 1. Remember, it's 1 here. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Therefore, I can then say dy over dx. See, I have not said dy over dx before I simplify. Let's simplify, then say dy over dx. So here I'm going to have 2x. Then I'm going to have minus 9x to the power minus 2. That is the final answer. Because remember, it's minus 1 times this, and then from there we subtract 1. Remember, in differential calculus, we subtract. In integration, we add. So here we subtract. So the answer will be that. So you see that 1 mark will be going for the simplification, 1 mark for that, 1 mark for this one. So please make sure you don't differentiate before you simplify. So you must simplify. If it needs simplification, simplify before you differentiate. Same thing with this one. First, we must simplify. This is not simplified. Remember, this is multiplied. So in other words, you are multiplying square root of x plus 8x multiplied by square root of x plus 8x. That's what we are multiplying. So I'm still writing dx because I'm still multiplying. So if I multiply this and that, I'm going to get 7x, sorry. I'm going to get x plus this times that and this times this will give us 16x to the power of half. I'm going to write it as x to the power of 3 over 2. I'm going to write it as 3 over 2. Right? And then I'm going to multiply, I'm going to say that is plus 64x squared. Right. So if I multiply this one times this, so this one times that, and this one times that. So I'm going to get 16x to the power 3 over 2. So in this case here, what am I going to have here? I'm now going to differentiate. Once I differentiate, I put equal sign. So the differentiation of x is 1, then plus, that will be 24 if I multiply 3 over 2 by 16. So I get 24x to the power minus 1 over 3. 1 over 2. Then that will be plus 128x. 2 times that. Subtract 1. So now the marking there will be for this And for splitting that, you're going to get 2 marks for multiplying out that. You get 1 mark there, 1 mark there, and 1 mark there. So there will be 5 marks. Okay, right. Multiplying out the brackets with fractions. Remember, with fractions, it's a bit of a challenge, but you must know how to do that. Okay. The equation of the tangent is one question that I know is that question that is given 6 marks, but in this case, it is broken down. The 6 marks has been broken down, and look at how they broke it down. So which means that if they give it as 6 marks, these are the steps that you're going to be following. If they give it as, if they've broken it down like this, then it's quite easy, I know. The first one, they say find g prime x. I know g prime x, 3 times 2 is 6x plus 9. I'm done. And that's the first thing that you're supposed to do. They say determine the gradient of the tangent. So they need the gradient of the tangent in this, where x equals to -3. So already I know the gradient of the tangent is this thing here. But we must substitute the x by -3. So I'll have 6 into -3. And then plus 9. So I'll have -9. All right. So I substitute into the gradient formula. This one is the gradient formula. Once I say find derivative, I'm talking about finding the gradient formula, right? Then they say at x equals to -3, I must substitute the value of x by 3. Okay. So that is my gradient. So my 633, they say hence, I already have a gradient which is -9. So what do I need now? I need a point. So remember I have the equation y is equals to, or I can use the equation y equals to mx plus c. That's an easy one. Now, in the equation y equals to mx plus c, I already have the gradient. So I need a point. So what will be my point? How do I get my point? Y equals, remember the equation was 3x squared plus 9x. So to get the point, I already have x equals to -3. So I'll have 3 into -3 squared plus 9 into -3. And the answer that I'm going to get there will be 0. All right? So I already have the point -3 and 0 with the gradient. The y value is 0. The gradient is -9. My x value is going to be -3 plus c. So I'll have 27 plus c. So c will be -27. So my y will be equals to minus 9x minus 27. Okay, so I'll have that. So in that case, now I have my gradient is -9x plus minus 27. So the gradient of the tangent is -9. I think that is what we got. Just quickly go back. Yes, the gradient is -9. Then we have to get a point at -3. And that is 9 times 3 is 27. And positive 27 and negative 27 gives us a 0. Then we put a 0 in the equation will be equal to that. Okay, all right. Now, question 7 is graphs. Sometimes they give you a graph drawn, and then now we need to figure out how to get the x value, the x intercept and the y intercept, and figure out the lengths of the lines and all that. In this case, the graph is not given. We need to work ourselves around this. It is defined by this. The nice thing that I love here is that after they give you this, then they factorize it partly. So this one is factorized partly. So in other words, you just need to factorize that to get the x-intercepts. See? Love it like that. But if they've given it like that, then yeah, it's a bit challenging because you have to use your synthetic method or long division method and other methods to get to the x-intercepts. But in this case, lovely. I love this example. Write down the coordinates of y, of the y-intercept of the graph. So here, for y-intercept, what do I know? X must be 0. So f of x is nothing else but y. I put a 0. I put a 0. I put a 0. I know some of you are saying, oh, you're wasting time. The value that does not have x is the y value. In other words, this thing here is zeros. So we're left with y equals to negative 10. So the coordinates, remember the coordinates. X is 0, y is negative 10. Coordinates. Sometimes if you write y equals to negative 10, it's not a coordinate. Coordinates, x value and the y value. Show that x minus 1 is a factor. Oh. So if x plus 1 is a factor, I write f of minus 1. Just put this equals to 0 and then solve for x. Then I'll have negative into negative 1 cubed plus 6 into negative 1 squared minus 3 into negative 1. 1 is negative 2. So 2 times 5 will give me 10. But that 10 must be negative. So how do I check that? That should be negative. Why? Because it's negative times positive times negative, which is positive, times the negative, which is negative. So in this case, my x values will be, put a 0 here. So we've got x minus 2, it's negative there. And then x plus 1, x minus 5. And then from there, my x values will be negative 2, 2. Or my other x value will be negative 1. My other x value will be positive 5. These are the x-intercepts of the graph. In other words, in my graph, it will be a 2, a 5, and a negative 1. So I already go to my template and put those values in so that then I don't have a challenge in drawing them. Next, it is the turning points of the graph. Already, if I have this, I don't have a problem. Can you see why I say I'm working with this one and that one? Because they're the same equation. So if I need this, I need to find the derivative and equate it to 0. This minus 3x squared minus 6, minus the terms that is 12x minus 3 is equals to 0. Then I need to divide both sides, divide everything there by 3. Negative 3, so I'll have x squared plus 4x, then plus 1 is equals to 0. I've divided throughout by negative 3, so I'll have that. So from there, I'm going to put this in my calculator to do a quadratic formula there. So I'm going to, because I know I don't have the factors of 1 that can give me, factors of 1 that can give me 4. I'm trying to think, no, we cannot have. So we need to have a formula, substitute into the formula, and then from there you get your answers. So if I substitute that into the formula, or remember this is plus, sorry, that should be minus. My bad. Okay, so now then I can be able to get the formula in, minus into minus 4, plus minus the square root of negative 4 squared, minus 4 into 1 into 1. All divided by 2 into 1. Then my x value that I'll get, using a calculator, get 0.27, or the other one will be 3.73. These are my x values. So my y values, I substitute this one into that equation, and this one into that equation. I'm not going to do that now. I know I've already done that. So it's negative 10.39, or the other one will be positive 10.39. So you must write down the coordinate 0.27 and negative 10,39. The other coordinates will be 3.73 and 10,39. Obviously, the next question will be sketch the graph. So with all those points, I can be able to sketch the graph of f. How do I sketch that graph? First of all, x-intercepts. What are my x-intercepts? It was -1. Make sure that your points are not far away from each other. So that's a 2, and we have a 5. Those are my x-intercepts. So this is where the graph is going to cut my x values. Now, the next thing that I need is the y-intercept. The y-intercept, we said it's -10. You see, I'm writing everything there. Right. Then the next one will be the turning points. So turning points, those are points. So the first one is 0,27, which is close to 0. Close to 0. But it is paired with -10,39, which means that it will be somewhere there. It's a turning point. I put a dot there. See, with these ones, I put a cross so that I know, okay. Okay, this one are my x-intercept. So I put a dot here. The next one is 3,73. So 3,73 maybe somewhere there. Then from there and 10,something, 10,39. It will be somewhere there. So I put a dot. Now, this graph is y, it's equals to negative. Now, this is what I usually do when it's a negative graph. I know this is the a value, it's negative. So if it's a negative, this is the tip. The first turning point, it becomes a cup. And the second turning point, it becomes a cap. So here, I'm reading my turning points from the left to the right. So from my left, this turning point is the first one, and there's the second one, writing them from my left to my right. So I said the first turning point is a cup, so it must face upwards. My second turning point must face downwards. Then I just join the turning points. From here, I'm going to join this one, it turns. From there, I'm going to go up here, and then it turns, and then from there, I'm going down. Then I can just extend that line. Okay, if it was a positive one, it will be vice versa. So if it's a y, it's positive, so it will be vice versa. So it will be this one there, that one there. So it will be a cap and a cup. So that's how I draw it. You need to indicate the coordinates of the turning point here, 3.73 and 10.39. That's how you can impress the markers, 0,27 and -10,3. There's no child without a name, so let's name our graph. The graph that was given to us was the F graph, so I named that graph F. Okay. Right. The points must be indicated, please. All these points must be indicated. So the questions that I'm trying to do here are questions that, as I said, we can quickly do them and make sure that we get them quick marks in the 1.5 hour that we have done. You get quick marks, then from there you relax, and then the next 1.5 hour you now working on those questions that you are not sure of. Then you work them out, and at least you can get out of 5 marks one question, you can get 3 out of 5. So we can be adding on what we have already got. Okay. Now with integration, which we also did the last time, just doing the quick revision on this with the activities. Remember the rules of integration. That is a very important rule when we have k over x, right? Also when we have the k exponent x, those are the two important rules that we must know. This one is it's a basic rule that we all must know, and this one also. Right, now, In the first one, it says determine the following integrals. Now, the sign for the integral is that S shape. It's 3 over x dx. It's 2 marks. What is the 2 marks? It's because I need to write one thing. Because this thing here is the same as 3 multiplied by 1 over x of dx. So the simple way to write it, it will be 3, I know if it's 1 over x, it's a ln. It's 3 ln x. That's 1 mark. Already I've got 1 mark for it. What is the next mark for? Plus c. Guys, we must get, if I missed something there and I write plus c, I already have 1 out of 2, which is 50%. So there's no need for you to get, there's no way that the person can get a 0 on the whole paper when you've got things like this. Because if I missed up on something and then maybe I wrote ln of 3x plus c, I'll get a mark for c. So please let us not leave questions unanswered. All our questions must be answered. 912, what do we have there? So already that is not already it's not simplified. So what should I do? I still keep my integration sign. So I'll have negative 3 x to the power negative 4, right? Plus x to the power 3 over 5. See, I've not yet integrated. Why am I writing 3 over 5? In exponents, we know if I've got a square root, I write as x to the power 1 over 2. And now you can ask me, why are you writing 1 over 2? It's because we don't write a 2 here. And the exponent for that is 1. So this 1 is a numerator, the 2 is a denominator. So if I've got 7th root of x to the power 3, what do I write? It's x, the 3 is the numerator, and the 7th, the root, is the denominator. Okay, so in this case, it's the same thing. The 3 is the numerator, the 5 is the denominator. That's how I write it. So if you can learn it that way, you will not have a problem with the roots. In this case, now I can differentiate. I'm not going to waste time on the differentiation. But the differentiation of that will be x to the power minus 3 plus 3 over 5. So it will be 5 over 8 x to the power of 3 over 8. Or 8 over 5, sorry. 8 over 5. In other words, you remember we are adding 1 here. So if I add 1, 3 over 5 plus 1 will give me 8 over 5. Then 8 over 5, this is what we put that. It's 5 over 8. Why am I putting it as 5 over 8? Because it was going to be x to the power 3 over 5 plus 1 divided by 8 over 5. So if I want to write it properly, it will be 5 over 8 x to the power 8 over 5. Okay, I hope you understand that, because then I have to write it properly in this order. And then obviously, once I've written that, I say plus c. So the 4 marks is for the arrangement of this one, and then from there you have 1, 2, 3 marks for that. Okay. Now the last question there, it's always going to be there, where we need to find the area of the shaded the shaded area there, bound by the x-intercept and the graph. Now, this graph is given, it's g of x. The points are given between this and this. What do I know about this? It is below the x-axis. It's below, negative outside. Okay, now, this is what I'm going to do. The area is equals to negative 3,5 is the upper, 1.4 is the below, it's negative 4 over x of dx. First thing that you need to do is to write down that. Okay. Now, I'm now going to write it in this form now. I'm going to say that minus, must put the minus outside because it is below the x-axis. Then I can then differentiate it. So obviously it's minus 4 over x. What should it be? Negative ln 4 ln x 3,5 and 1,4. Then I'm going to have my two brackets, negative this bracket minus that bracket. Remember, we can have a bigger bracket in there and all that. Okay. So that then I know that that negative will affect everything that is going, or we can affect what is inside this small bracket, okay? Or it can affect everything. Now, but for now it's not necessary because I want to affect the one that is there. So I'm going to say minus 4 ln of 3,5 and minus 4 ln of 1,4. Then I'm just going to write down the answer here. So the answer there is going to be, if I take my calculator and put in this, my answer is going to be 3,67. And remember, these are square units because it's area. So the biggest thing that we must understand here is the area below, put a negative. So the area above, no problem. And once we have area where we have the two sides, like for instance, I've got a minus 2 there and I've got a 2 there, and the area of this and the area of that, you can see the two areas are going to be equal. What do I do in this case? You get area of the first one and you get the area of the second, you add them together. Okay. Or alternatively, you can then put the negative outside because it is the negative. The other one has got a negative area, negative value. Okay, because it is below the x-axis. So below it's negative. So we must put it negative on the one below. Okay, so here you can say from 0 to negative 2, 0 to 2. Then you do two of them. Then you can add them together. Now in this case here, it's either you can also get this point here might not be given. You might be given maybe P. That is not given. You're given P. But if you're given P, this area will be given to you. So you must go and practice also this one. To say, if this area is given to you, what do I do? Same thing, you're going to take this area and put it here. Then from there, in the case, and you still put it there. In the case of 3.5, you're going to get a P. Then you can work out what is the value of that. Okay, so these are two types of questions that we'll get. Where you are given the area, you need to get the 1 point, or when you are given the 2 points, you need to get the area of the 2. Okay. With these questions, I mean, I've selected this question because I've seen that these questions are basic questions that everybody can do, and everybody can get full marks in this type of questions. So the other questions, obviously, as I say, you leave them for the end, at the end when you've done everything that you know. You can start with question 9, no one will say anything. Start with question 9, start with question 1, start with question 2, doesn't matter. Because you're going to have a booklet. So you start anyway. Then in that case, you are able to can quickly grab the marks that you need, and then from there you can improve your performance in the minutes that are left in the exam. With that, thank you and good luck with the paper 1 tomorrow. Please practice, practice, practice. You'll get these questions right. Thank you.